Pascal Picat, but when the green flag dropped on the first wave of riders, Australian mounted Troy Corser led the way. He was followed by Doug Poland, Eddie Lawson, and Fred Merkel. Now, a few seconds later, second wave was started, including 15th row, Scott Russell.
Yeah, that's right, Larry. Scott Russell had a wheel bearing failure in his twin 50, and that put him way back. He actually didn't finish that race and had to start way back in 64th spot.
Well, at that point, Russell was not given much of a chance to win. The racing was all up front. Poland on the new Honda had the lead, and here comes the first major problem of the day. Lindley Clark, Tommy Lynch, and Lee Schertz all crashed in that hairpin. All of them got up and were okay. Troy Corser, the Australian upstart, took the lead from Eddie Lawson in the early going, and I think that kind of set the stage, Jim, for what was to come. We're looking at Ducatis. We're looking at Eddie Lawson riding perhaps his last Daytona 200. Tried very, very hard, but just didn't have it on this particular day. Then it was Scott Russell coming through the pack that amazed everyone.
Unbelievable ride, Larry. 64th at the start, 10th after 5 laps.
He was aided by a restart. Bernard Schick, a German rider, crashed. There was a red flag, and on the restart, Scott Russell was able to get closer to the front, and well, there you see it in the pits. As a matter of fact, there's Jim Allen congratulating Rob Muzzy as the win went to Kawasaki. Finishing in a number 2 position was Troy Corser, the upstart Australian, coming through. Then Eddie Lawson, Doug Poland, Jamie James. And in effect, Jim, Troy Corser was actually the leader of the Superbike series at this point.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Larry. Scott Russell and Doug Poland went off to Europe to do World Superbike, and Eddie Lawson, of course, was only a one-race deal for him.
On to round 2 at Phoenix, where Troy Corser said, hey, it was no fluke. He was the pole sitter with a new track record. Pascal Picat right behind him. And would point out that at Daytona, Picat blew a chain, or threw a chain rather, so he was not around at the end, and that cost him a whole ton of points. At Phoenix, Picat got the jump on the field. Now, he was followed by Edwards, Corser, Tiger Soa, and Fred Merkel. Now watch Edwards. He's going to go real wide here, and Corser is going to slide by into the number 2 position. And Corser already looking like the champion that he is going to become before the season is over.
Yeah, Larry, in that particular pass, he's on his way to catch up with his teammate Pascal Picat, and that was a great race for the first part of that Phoenix event. For the second race in a row, Miguel Duhamel was out at Daytona. He had moved close to the top 20 before blowing an engine. Then at Phoenix, Duhamel was close to the lead group, and on lap 5, the fuel pump put him out. The story at Phoenix, well, it was the Ducatis of Picat and Corser. Picat leading for the first 18 laps. Then a lap rider, there it is right there, got in the way. Picat chose to go to the outside. Corser went to the inside, and he took over the number 1 position. The two of them, Larry, battled right up until lap 22, and then Pascal Picat, for the second race in a row, had mechanical problems, and he was out of the race. Pascal
maintained a smile and said it was all bad luck.
Maybe one day is going to be mine. I'm not really lucky. That's racing.
Pascal would race the remainder of the season without championship hopes. Troy Corser rode uncontested toward the checkered flag, his first ever AMA Superbike win. Fred Merkel would take the number 2 position aboard the Muzzy Kawasaki. Check out the battle for third. It was Colin Edwards nipping his Yamaha teammate Jamie James at the wire. That was a tight one. Dave Sadowski came home with a strong 5th place finish. Let's go to Troy Corser.
I just tried to be consistent and smooth and not make any or too many mistakes, and I was lucky enough I've done it.
A rather large lead after only 2 rounds. 14 points for Troy Corser over Jamie James, Crevier, Edwards, and Smith in that order. Colin Edwards administers the shower to the back of Troy Corser's neck, and we'll be back.
For months now, we've been telling you about Couvray, the natural-looking way to hide thinning hair, and you've been telling us about it too.
I've tried everything, even a hairpiece, but nothing looks more natural than Couvray, and it's so inexpensive and easy to use.
Nobody can tell that I've lost so much hair.
This is me without Couvray. And here I am with Couvray. Amazing, isn't it? Couvray is a gentle cream specially formulated to darken your scalp, neutralize its shine, and thicken your remaining hair. It's so undetectable, all you see is hair.
I can't imagine ever being without it.
Join the thousands of folks who have discovered Couvray.
You have nothing to lose except the look of thinning hair.
For rush delivery, call 1-800-453-9000 or send $19.95 for your 3 to 4 month supply of Couvray plus $4.50 shipping to Couvray, 10 Bay Street, Westport, Connecticut.
It starts with the drop. And from that point on, it's nothing but non-stop end-to-end excitement. The nation's top skaters lace them up on the college hockey game of the week. UMass Lowell and Boston College, Friday night at 7 Eastern, live on Prime.
Round 3 of the 1994 AMA Superbike Series at a brand new venue to Superbike racing. They labeled it the LA Superbike Championships. It was at the Pomona Fairplex in Pomona, California. Number 19, Troy Corser, the series points leader, was on the pole, but Jim, his start was not pole sitter quality.
I'd agree with that, Larry, for sure. Instead, it was Jamie James, Steve Crevier, and Mike Smith that led the way through turn 1.
Now that bad start was just the start of Troy Corser's problems. Watch this. The rider shooting off the edge of the track was just bumped by Dale Quarterly, and that was Troy Corser. We'll take another look at it.
He was lucky to stay in the race for this one, Larry. He very nearly collected those hay bales there.
Yeah, I'd say he missed the bales by about 2 foot, and he can look back today and say, well, if I'd have been out 2 foot further, I don't think I would be the AMA Superbike champ. Jamie James held down the lead in the early going. Now, Troy Corser got right back in it. I think we should point out that this is a rather bumpy and very tight track, so the power of the Ducati was not being utilized like it was at Daytona, like it was at Phoenix.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Larry. This certainly we saw in this race. We saw 2 Yamahas in solid positions all race long, and 2 Kawasaki's in solid positions all race long. So it was a good a mix of brands in the race.
Now, because this was a brand new track, there were some problems leading up to the race. There were some things that the riders didn't like, some obstacles that they felt were a detriment to their safety. The promoters moved those obstacles, and they fixed the track so that everyone could go racing. And while it was not 100% satisfactory, it was good enough for the riders to get out and strut their stuff on, and the fans saw a heck of a show. And I think 1995, we go back to Pomona, and we're going to see an even better one. Colin Edwards, the first time, really became a factor in the season.
Yeah, that's right, Larry. In this race, he demonstrated very, very aggressive riding. He was determined to win this race. He fought with Troy Corser long and hard, all race long. And I think we saw the beginnings of what later would blossom in the season as a real Colin Edwards threat all year long.
Okay, now Colin Edwards had led the race. Troy Corser made the pass. Look at this. A lap rider cutting across the front of Colin Edwards almost knocked him down. We're going to take another look at this. Jim, what do you see?
Well, I think, you can read this 2 ways. There is the school of thought that says that rider came across on the front of Colin Edwards' front wheel, but, you look at it again from another viewpoint, and Colin Edwards was certainly being aggressive. He wasn't giving that guy any room. So.
Yeah, well, look at this.
This was a key factor in the race. Obviously, Colin's in big trouble here, Larry. That motorcycle is just about to throw him. We all saw this horrible crash. Colin was very lucky to escape. He didn't hit the hay bales. He just came to a stop and was very fortunate to get away with no injuries at all.
That was on lap number 26. He blew the engine. The back end came around, of course, with all that oil and caught up with the front end, pitched him off, and I can't believe this, but the guy jumped right up. Anyhow, race was red flagged. They stopped it right there, I think, probably because of the bonfire that Colin Edwards' motorcycle had created, and that left
I think the EPA was there, Larry.
Troy Corser made it 2 in a row. Soa, Crevier, James, and Pascal Picat. And here are the standings now after 3 rounds. Corser lengthening his lead over the rest of the field. Round 4 of the series at Laguna Seca, Pascal Picat's turn to shine. With a new track record, he took the pole position. Jamie James was the rider that was fastest off the line. However, Pascal was not going to let him stay in that #1 slot very long.
No, that's right, Larry. Pascal had this race wired, this circuit rather wired from the very beginning of practice, and he worked hard at this one.
We look back at what Pascal accomplished at Laguna Seca, and it makes me wonder what would have happened if Pascal had not had the mechanical problems at Daytona and at Phoenix.
That's a very good point, Larry. With 35 points up for each AMA win, plus a point for qualifying, the potential there was for a lot of points, and Pascal Picat didn't get very many of them at all.
Through the first 12 laps at Laguna Seca, Pascal opened a huge lead over Jamie James, and then a crash that took 5 riders out with it. Here is Mike Hale sliding across the track. He was about the 4th or 5th rider that was collected in that whole thing, and remarkably, I would point out quickly that Hale got up and walked away.
That's right.
In any event, the race was red flagged, had to be restarted, and Pascal Picat had to do it all over again. This time, Jamie James, like last time, got the early lead, but Pascal is not going to waste any time. He's going to go after James, and Corser now got a little bit better start that time around, and it's going to be Corser and Picat going for the win in the closing stages of this race, but really it would amount to no race at all.
That's right, Larry. The race, as it ultimately turned out, was for 3rd spot, and this is a move that Jamie James made on Fred Merkel in the very last corner of the very last lap to take 3rd place away from Fred Merkel.
With a great big wheelie, Pascal Picotte wins his first ever AMA Superbike race. Coming home in the number 2 position, it was Corser, then Jamie James, who later said, geez, I hope Fred's not mad at me for pushing him around in that last corner. Let's hear from Pascal Picotte.
Troy was always right there, and we're doing a lot of 28. The pace was really fast. I'm really, really happy about my win.
Indeed, and he should be happy, and we're happy to see him finally get that one out of the way. Here are the standings. Troy Corser moves out to a 23-point lead after just 4 rounds. Now, this is how a rider gets his revenge for getting whipped. Jamie James first sprays him in the face and then dumps it down his neck. We'll be back after this.
Some people will run, kick, scream, do some headbanging, or even a little bicycling to get to Davidson, North Carolina for the NCAA Division I Soccer Championship. All you have to do is watch. Semifinals Friday at 2 on Prime. The best in 1AA battling it out for the National Championship. Division I AA semifinals, Saturday beginning at noon Eastern, live on Prime.
This is Cycle World, our look back at the 1994 AMA Superbike Series. It would not be complete without a look at the typical food served at where?
Road America.
That's where you find it in the Midwest. They're famous for the brats and the corn, and I want to tell you, the folks just gobble it up just as fast as they can cook it.
Speaking of cooking, Larry, Pascal Picotte was cooking. He took his 3rd pole of the season at Elkhart Lake.
Yeah, that was despite 20 pounds of extra weight that was hung on the frame of his Ducati. This is something that had been brewing for quite some time. The Ducatis originally were allowed a weight advantage because they were twin-cylinder motorcycles. But they grew faster and faster and faster, and all of a sudden, they just did not need that weight, Jim.
That's the way the AMA eventually interpreted the situation, Larry. They had won an incredible percentage of the races over the last season and this season to date. So as a result, there was a rule passed to hang those 20 pounds of weight on the bikes, and here at Elkhart Lake, it didn't seem to make a lot of difference.
Well, it didn't on horsepower, but I wonder if it may not have affected the handling. Now, watch what happens to Pascal Picotte in the upcoming corner. Watch what Pascal does. Almost runs off the racetrack, made that mistake, allowing Corser to go by, and we're going to see Corser make a couple of errors a little bit later in the race. So, could the 20 pounds have affected the handling of the Ducatis?
Yeah, that's certainly conceivable, Larry. I mean, we did see this mistake by Pascal. We did see a couple of mistakes by Troy Corser. Pascal commented to me that weekend that the bike was a little harder to flick from side to side. So sure, I think it's conceivable that was the case.
Now in the upcoming corner, we're going to see Troy Corser make the first of 2 major mistakes during the day. Here he went very, very wide, and he was passed by a couple of riders. Now in the upcoming corner, the mistake was even more serious. Now watch, he's going to get into a little wobble here, and he locks up the rear wheel, and he knows that he does not have a prayer of making that corner, so he uses the runoff area across that little strip of gravel and out into the grass, and just like that, he was out of touch with the leaders, and for him the race was over.
Yeah, that's the case, Larry. He wasn't able to ever reestablish contact with the front part of the race at that stage. The race was winding down, and Troy just couldn't quite get with the program after that.
Next to last lap, watch Colin Edwards. He went down hard. Now I'll tell you, he did get up and walk away from that thing. Jim, what happened?
Well, what happened here, as you can see, watch Colin's back wheel. The tire loses traction. He shuts it off and grabs traction again, throws him over the top of the motorcycle, and he was lucky not to get tangled up with the bike as they both slid to a stop here.
Now, the Colin Edwards crash led to another incident right here. This is the pass that Jamie James put on Pascal Picotte, but he did it while a yellow flag was waving. Now, going up the hill, James is going to miss a shift, and that's going to let Pascal Picotte make the pass and go on and take the win. But that doesn't matter. What happened was he made a pass right here where a yellow flag was waving, and that is a 1-lap penalty.
That's right, Larry. It's an automatic 1-lap penalty, and it cost Jamie James a lot of points at Elkhart Lake and ultimately may have cost him the championship.
Instead of the number 2 position that he did actually finish in, he was credited after being docked a lap with 17th place. So Pascal Picotte with his second win in a row. Fred Merkel second. Dave Sadowski, a good ride to finish third. Here are the standings. Troy Corser's lead just continues to grow and grow and grow, and you wonder at this point, can anyone beat Troy Corser in this chase for the championship? On to Loudoun in round 6 in the competition. We're giving it their all. They by no means had given this championship up to Troy Corser. We had a pair of Yamahas out front. Fred Merkel running into number 3 position. It was Colin Edwards, it was Jamie James, then Merkel, and behind them Troy Corser. Picotte was never in this one at all. Picotte crashed in practice. He ruined his best bike, had to ride the backup bike. By the end of the race, though, things back to normal. Geraldo Ferracci was smiling. Troy Corser was pulling a wheelie. He took the checkered flag, and the best outing by far of the season for the RC45 as Mike Smith collected a 4th place. Here are the point standings after 6 events, and look at the lead that Troy Corser has. As we go to commercial, we'll leave you with Tom Kipp sporting a new pair of eyebrows. Mike Smith showing off his choppers. Pascal Picotte, he got new shoes to match his Ducati. Rob Muzzy applies a coat of wax to his stash. Colin Edwards shows us his receding hairline. And here's Jim's favorite part. Steve Crevier steals a kiss.
At Honda, we don't think kids should be the only ones who eat dirt. That's why we make fun and reliable dirt bikes for just about every member of your family. So that everyone can get a taste of the great outdoors.
The latest bikes, the hottest wheels, the greatest finishes.
That's all I ever wanted.
It's time to ride your own race. Get on the fast track to success by calling Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. Endorsed by all 5 major manufacturers, the professionals at MMI will provide you the training to finish first.
1 year after graduation, and I'm working for the 2-time and current AMA National Championship GT Endurance Road Race team, Team Moto Liberty.
This is the call that can change your life. Take the first step to MMI.
Hey, MCI customers. Now MCI advertises 40% savings with Friends and Family 2 Basic, but the average savings on your MCI bill is only 13%. Must be MCI math again. Look at your bill. To get any discount at all, people you call have to be in your circle, and to get the big savings, they also have to be MCI customers. You even have to pay $36 a year in fees, so you never get 40% off your total bill. Now, some true math from AT&T. 20% is what we offer, and 20% is what we subtract off your AT&T bill. That's AT&T True USA Savings. Spend $25 a month on AT&T Long Distance and save 20% on your AT&T calls to everyone in the USA, anytime, guaranteed. 4 out of 5 Friends and Family 2 Basic customers will save more with AT&T. Call 1-800-PIC-ATT. Switching's free. Call now.
Your true voice.
Prime coverage of Cycle World is brought to you by EBC Brakes. No one stops you faster. Welcome back to Cycle World. I'm Larry Myers. With me, Jim Allen. If you've just tuned in, we're looking back at the title run for the AMA U.S. Superbike National Championship. Jim, we've covered the first 6 races of the season. There are 4 to go. At that point in time, any doubt in your mind that Troy Corser had him covered?
I think, Larry, the people that were familiar with the series and the people that followed it would have to bet on Troy Corser at that point. I mean, he'd won 3 out of the first 6 races, and to cap it off, Jamie James had a big problem at Road America when he passed under the yellow flag and lost almost all his points for that event. So yeah, I don't think too many people would have bet against Troy Corser at that point.
I'd buy that 100%. 4 races to go. The bottom fell out. Now, we'll get to that in a few minutes, though. First, let's break away from Superbikes, take a quick look at the rest of the AMA Championship battles. For the 2nd year in a row, Team Moto Liberty claimed the #1 plate in AMA middleweight team competition. Riding for Team Moto Liberty, Jamie Bowman, Michael Barnes, Takahito Mori, and Doug Carmichael. Arian Racing was also a repeat winner. They claimed the EBC Brakes Unlimited Team Challenge. Arian riders were Nick Einach, Larry Pegram, and Michael Barnes. In the 250 GP class, domination was the name of the game. Performance South Yamaha was the team. Rich Oliver is the team owner and rider. At the season opener, he finished 2nd. After that, he captured 8 checkered flags. He suffered 1 miscue along the way, this at Brainerd, Minnesota. Rich slides, rolls, and tumbles to the back door of the ambulance, but had no need for that back door as he just jumped up and walked away. Final race of the season. Well, this just gives you an idea of the type of domination that we saw from Rich Oliver all season long. He won it by a mile. The Harley-Davidson Twin Sports class was a battle between Scott Zampak on the left and Sean Higbee on the right. First 4 races of the year, they each won twice and each finished second twice. Round 5, Scott Zampak suffered a mechanical. That put him out of the points chase, but 2 races later, well, watch what happens as Sean Higbee gives some of those points back. On the last lap, he tried to get around Zampak, and that didn't work. Next race, round 8, Zampak says, well, if you can crash, I can crash more spectacularly. And Zampak ended up in the woods. He walked away from that crash, we're happy to say. The number 1 plate went to Sean Higbee. Honors for the tightest battle of the season belong to the 2 riders in the 750cc Super Sport class. Defending champion Britt Turkington was tied in points with his Suzuki teammate Tom Kipp going into the final race of the series. In the early part of the season, it was all Britt Turkington. Then Tom Kipp came on strong. Heading into Atlanta, Tom Kipp had captured 4 victories. Britt Turkington had won twice, but had finished second 3 more times. Throughout the race, the pair of riders dogged each other. First one would lead, then the other. Never more than a few bike lengths apart. And then for Britt Turkington, the bottom fell out. The noise you hear is Britt Turkington's gearbox. Tom Kipp claimed the victory and the number 1 plate in the 750 Super Sport class. In 600cc Super Sport competition, the championship was decided between a pair of riders. Mike Smith aboard the Smokin' Joe's Honda and Jamie James riding the Vance and Hines Yamaha. These 2 riders battled neck and neck through 8 events of the 10-event season. Look at the point standings with just 2 rounds to go. 1 point separating Smith from James. Round 9, Sears Point Raceway, 1 lap and some change to the end of the race, and Mike Smith threw away his title hopes. Here's another look from another angle. The bike goes flying, Mike Smith into the hay bales. Mike Smith was uninjured, but his title was gone. Jamie James claimed the 600cc Super Sport Championship.
33 years old, Larry, and he still gets the job done. Maybe there's hope for you and me yet.
Not that much hope. You know, that was the 3rd national championship of Jamie James' career. You know, he earned it. He was really proud of it, but that's not the one he really wanted in 1994. There was still that one yet to win. As we continue our look back at the Superbike Series, I'll remind you that with 4 races to go, it appeared Troy Corser had the championship locked up. Then came Mid-Ohio. Now, no one realized it at the time, Jim, but qualifying for the Mid-Ohio race may have been an indicator that the Superbike Series was about to be turned upside down. Colin Edwards had the pole. Not the biggest surprise, though. There's the big surprise. Miguel Duhamel, the VR 1000 Harley, was on the front row.
Not only was he on the front row, Larry, but for 3 laps he led this race. He kept back all the Ducatis and all the Japanese bikes. The crowd went nuts. The crowd absolutely loved it. He led this thing and led it in grand style.
It might appear to you that are watching the show that we have neglected the Harley-Davidson up till this point, but frankly, there'd been nothing to talk about. The Harley had been in the pits more than it had been on the racetrack. But at Mid-Ohio, it was a breath of fresh air. Miguel Duhamel out front, the crowd was going nuts. For 13 laps, Miguel Duhamel kept the Harley in contention for the number 1 position. Then it was into the pits. Of all things, a loose shift lever ended Miguel's charge. Troy Corser, on the other hand, never made it back to the pits.
Yeah, that's right, Larry. Troy Corser had an engine problem here, and as you can tell by the way he put the bike up against the barrels there, he was pretty disgusted with the fact that he did not finish at Mid-Ohio.
So from the Ducati camp, that left it up to Piquet. He was followed by Edwards, James, and at one point Mike Smith. Unfortunately, Mike Smith crashed his way out of contention. Now that left Pascal Piquet to do battle with a pair of Yamahas. Unfortunately for the Faraci Ducati team, Pascal Piquet was just about to park his motorcycle. He too called it a day. They went 2 for 2. That left the Yamaha teammates to do battle amongst themselves, and in retrospect, had Jamie James not backed off the pace, had he challenged and beaten Colin Edwards, that could have been the championship.
Yeah, what you say is true, Larry, but I think the point I want to make here is that Colin Edwards was on his way. I don't think that he was going to be beaten on this day. That's my opinion. He certainly was very, very anxious to have that first national win. It's very special to any rider to get that win.
Well, Colin Edwards got it, followed by James, and Tiger Soa was third. Take a look at the point standings, because Jamie James is starting now to move into contention. For Colin Edwards, well, should I drink it or should I wear it?
When it comes to making great wheels look their best, Eagle One doesn't miss a beat.
Eagle One Wheel Care products are exclusively recommended by the world's leading wheel manufacturers.
Introducing Triple Edge Wiper Blades. Triple Edge with the patented 3-edge design clears, cleans, and wipes dry all in a single pass. Triple Edge lifetime wipers are made from virtually indestructible Dow Corning silicone. In fact, Triple Edge is so strong they're guaranteed for as long as you own your car. Triple Edge lets you see through the heaviest downpour. It whisks away mud, snow, and ice. Triple Edge installs in seconds on most cars, trucks, or vans. Triple Edge, available at these fine stores.
Welcome back. The bandaged hand belongs to Troy Corser, who suffered a high-speed crash at practice at Brainerd International Raceway.
I just took a bit of skin off the top of my hand. I went to the hospital and they cleaned it all out for me, and just to stop infection. But it should be okay. It's a little sore, but I'll be able to go out and just ride consistent in the race, and it should be good.
What Corser failed to mention was that he had spent the night in the hospital and would be riding with 6 stitches in his throttle hand. Now, the Harley-Davidson continued to impress. Duhamel qualified 5th.
Yeah, definitely the bike's potential is coming out now, and I'm real happy about it. The team's really happy about it, and you know, it's getting better and better every day.
With round 8 of the AMA Superbike Series underway, it appeared that the hand would not be a problem. Troy Corser led the pack. He was followed by Mike Smith, Pascal Picat, Miguel Duhamel, James, Edwards. Now, most of those 6 riders would hang together, changing the lead back and forth throughout the race. It has since been labeled, Jim, as the most exciting Superbike race in the history of Superbike racing.
Yeah, Larry, that is absolutely the case. In years to come, this race will be known as the benchmark by which other good races are judged. This kind of action we're seeing right now went on right until the very last lap of the race. It went on lap after lap after lap.
Running into number 2 position, Mike Smith had the RC45 up front and led on a couple of occasions. Then Miguel Duhamel took over, and for 3 laps, the number 17 Harley-Davidson was out front, and the fans were loving it. Now, Miguel tried a breakaway. He was the only rider really that really got on the gas and said, I'm going to try to leave these guys. But I think in the process that maybe Miguel got just a little over anxious, because as you'll see in an upcoming corner, that breakaway is going to work to his disadvantage.
Yeah, Larry, he put a lot of pressure on himself and a lot of pressure on the other guys, obviously, but a lot of pressure on himself to try to break away. And what ultimately happened is he went into this upcoming corner, put a little bit too much rear brake on, I think, and went off the racetrack there, ended up on the grass, and went all the way to the back of these 8 or 9 guys that are in this lead group.
It was almost like a jump. If he'd hit that thing a little straighter and a little bit faster, he'd have flown completely off the edge of the track. Now, that dropped Miguel back to about somewhere around 7th, 8th, 9th place. But you're going to see that before this race is over, he is going to get back into it. Miguel was actually the fastest rider on the racetrack.
That's right, Larry. But what you're about to see, it's easy to be the quickest rider on the racetrack when the track is clear in front of you, but very, very difficult when you have to work your way through these guys who are all fighting very, very hard to win this event.
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind, too. Troy Corser fighting for the championship. Jamie James wants to hold his position, needs the points, of course, but those 2 guys cannot afford to throw anything away. Colin Edwards, I think, in the space of 1 race, had developed some maturity. So maybe they were riding with just a little bit more caution than Duhamel, who had nothing to lose at that point.
Well, that's right. Miguel did have nothing to lose, and you know, it was obviously very important for him to make a good showing, but I think Jamie and Corser were probably going just about as hard as they could in this race.
Braking is what Duhamel would later say was the secret to the Harley-Davidson. He said, I do not have the high speed that is necessary to keep up with the Yamahas and Ducatis throughout the long straightaways, but I can get them in the corners.
Right. He sure did a great job that day for us all.
Look at this race, and there is Miguel Duhamel right back in it. And we're looking now at the last lap of competition. Miguel Duhamel is running in a number 2 position, but watch what happens. A major bobble coming out of the corner, and he was passed by Troy Corser. We'll go back and take another look. And Jim, what caused that bobble?
Well, I think Miguel was just trying very, very hard here, Larry. It looked to me like he just applied some throttle. You can see the back end brake loose. He leaves the black streak. And Troy Corser and Jamie James both end up going by him. He went from 2nd to 4th.
Okay, now, the battle is going to be won by Colin Edwards. Look at him looking down on his motorcycle. When he crossed the finish line, his transmission actually went out. He never would have made another lap.
That's right. He couldn't have raced another lap and finish where he did.
So Colin Edwards made it 2 in a row, followed by Corser James in that order. And Corser actually picked up a couple of points on Jamie James in the chase for the title. Colin Edwards, he was the big winner. Smile, Colin, and we'll be back.
Please direct your attention to the coin toss.
Gentlemen, this is heads, this is tails. Captain, call it in the air.
To commemorate its 75th anniversary, the National Football League commissioned Balfour, maker of Super Bowl championship rings, to create the official game coin for each NFL team to be used during the opening toss of every game this season. And for a limited time, you can purchase one for just $59.95. Only 7,500 coins will be pressed for each team, and each coin is individually numbered with a signed certificate of authenticity. Each coin is minted with 1 troy ounce of fine silver and overlaid in pure 24-karat gold. Order now and receive this plush display case absolutely free. Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. Be a part of the action with your very own NFL flip coin. Some teams are selling out fast, so call now. 1-800-423-8200 or send $59.95 plus $10 shipping and handling to NFL Game Coin Box 193, Devon, PA 19333. Specify your team with your order.
Fight night. Fight night. Fight night. At the Forum. Hook. Uppercut. Right cross. Lights out. Fight night from the Forum. Monday night at 11, live on Prime.
The AMA 1994 Superbike season was winding down. 2 races to go. Sears Point was round 8, and Miguel Duhamel in the Harley-Davidson was the favorite to win.
I guess I'm just don't want to jinx it, you know. I mean, we went because I'm thinking reverse psychology on this. I went Brainerd. I thought, I mean, everybody thought we had no chance there. Even I was like, oh, yeah, Brainerd's going to be pretty tough. I don't know, fighting for maybe 5th or 6th. And next thing you know, we were leading it, pulling away, go back down, go all the way back up to 2nd, and got 4th.
Troy Corser had won the pole by 5/100ths of a second over Colin Edwards. With the title on the line, Corser wanted to win, but the title came first.
I go out there and try my best, and if I can win, then I'll win. And if not, then I'll finish 2nd. My main goal here this weekend is just to finish in front of Jamie James again, same as what I've done at Brainerd. And if I do that, then I'll be more points in front in the championship.
Jamie James had no choice in the matter. He trailed the Aussie in the chase for the crown. Strategy? Win at all costs.
I don't have much more opportunity for him to give it to me, so it's time for me just to go full on and try to win a race.
Well, with the race underway, it was apparent that Corser was not ready to roll over for the sake of points. He was the leader until he was passed by Colin Edwards. Now, Smart Money says to me, Jim, that at this point Corser should have backed off and let Edwards go.
Well, he was pretty confident that weekend, as I recall, Larry, and he thought he could win the thing in the best way he felt safe and comfortable doing what he's doing. But obviously Colin Edwards was going for the lead. They collided there, and we'd have another look at it here. Colin and Troy just went for the same piece of ground, and there was only room for one of them to take it.
Well, I think that bump was a wake-up call, because Corser said later that at that point he had decided to back off the pace. He was not going to do it. Watch this upcoming crash. Troy Corser goes down hard. Now, at the time, we thought that Corser had made a mistake. We later learned that a part had broken on his motorcycle, causing the crash, and it was not Corser's fault at all. In fact, you'll see something fly up in the air. There it is right there. So it was not Corser's fault that he crashed. Now, look at how close Jamie James comes to the rear of Corser's motorcycle, then cuts to the inside as Corser's bike slid across the track in front of him. All those points rather, and Jamie James running up front now had a golden opportunity.
Talk about opportunity, Larry. Here's opportunity lost. We expected Miguel de Hamel to challenge for this race and probably win, possibly win at least, but in the end he had a problem with the carburetor butterfly and fuel injection butterfly, actually, and his race was finished early that day.
Give a call to Dave Sadowski here. Sadowski overtakes Jamie James. He dropped back as James was able to repass it, but Sadowski turned in an extremely strong ride aboard the privateer Ducati.
Yeah, he blamed himself later for not being aggressive enough. He thought he could have won the thing or possibly finished second. Dave put in a good ride, the long and short of it.
Jamie James ended up in the number 3 position. He later said that he slowed his pace and settled for that spot to conserve the points because he knew that Corser was out. Now, Corser was no longer being chased. He was the chaser.
Well, it means now I've got to go to Atlanta and win. So that's all I'll be there to do. That's the only way I can win the championship, if I win the race and then see where Jamie finishes.
At Road Atlanta, there was another rider on hand, and his goal was to win. Scott Russell, and we'll be back.
The new Honda V4 Magna. Nothing's meaner.
Here it is! Here it is! Here it is! The one you've been waiting for! On board with Doug Poland at the 93 Charlotte Superbike National. Catch the exciting action and experience the high banks and tricky chicanes at Charlotte. Even survive crashing through a hay bale at 80 miles an hour. Call 1-800-977-323. That's 2323.
Do you forget everything if you don't write it down? Well, you need MemoMate, the new electronic notepad that's as fast as you speak.
Don't forget your 2 o'clock appointment.
And forget.
Don't forget your 2 o'clock appointment.
New microchip technology makes MemoMate smaller than a business card and featherweight.
Honey, don't forget to pick up the kids at 4.
It's great for busy schedules, too.
Don't forget to pick up the kids at 4.
Put it on your key ring and you'll remember everything.
Blue section, row 15.
You can use it to remember where you parked.
Blue section, row 15.
Or use it to remember directions.
Right on Oak Street.
You need a MemoMate.
Right on Oak Street, left on...
This microchip technology could cost you $199. But now, get MemoMate for just $19.95. So don't forget, call now. Don't forget, call now.
Have your credit card ready and call 1-800-321-5400. The incredible MemoMate is just $19.95. Call 1-800-321-5400.
At the AMA Superbike season finale, Corser trailed James by a mere 3 points. The combination of finishing positions for each rider to win the crown were endless. In their minds, though, there was only one way to go.
I'm here to race Jamie, and that's basically all I got to beat. Basically, I have to beat Troy no matter what, so that's what I'll be out trying to do.
Colin Edwards was looking for his 4th win in a row, but the championship for Team Yamaha would come first.
I'm in this race to help Jamie get the championship, and you know, whatever it takes to get him the championship, that's what I'm going to do.
Scott Russell was looking for a win. If he took first place points, it would help his buddy Jamie James.
The real reason I'm here is to win the race, and hopefully if I can do that, then that'll be what he needs to help him win it.
Jim, it sounds like the cards are stacked against Troy Corser.
Well, I think it's only natural that Jamie would have a good deal of support. He's an American in an American championship. The sentiment naturally, I think, would fall with Jamie. Corser is well liked and well respected this season, and I don't think anybody ever had held anything against Troy. It's just that Jamie was very popular in America.
Well, with a race underway inside of 1 lap, Scott Russell had taken over the number 1 position. He was being followed on the track by Pacat, Edwards, Mike Smith, Sadowski, Duhamel. All that was early in the ball game. A couple of laps later, it was only 2 in the battle for the lead, and that was Scott Russell and Colin Edwards. Now, Russell just flat split, and when he did that, Colin Edwards dropped back, I think, in order to help Jamie James.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. Colin had high hopes of beating Scott. He outqualified him, as you'll recall, at this event. and I think he really wanted to beat Scott. But Scott, I think, put on a World Superbike display that impressed everybody, including Colin Edwards that day.
Now, at this point, Jamie James was off the pace far enough so that he was not even in championship contention. Colin Edwards was trying to slow the pace. He put himself back in front of the Ducatis and actually tried to slow things down. And here comes Jamie James. He responded well.
Yes, he certainly did. And he put a move on. He latched back onto the back of this pack and worked his way through them, Larry. And Jamie was definitely on his way.
Now, Colin Edwards tried a little too hard. He ran off the edge of the racetrack, and that allowed all of the Ducatis to get ahead of him. We're talking about Piquet, we're talking about Corser, and Dave Sadowski, rider number 25. At this point, Jamie James took matters into his own hands. He passed Piquet and Sadowski and is now chasing Troy Corser. If it stays this way to the checkered flag, James wins the title.
That's exactly right, Larry. That's exactly where Jamie needed to be at this point. He really didn't look like he was content with that position, because he just tried to go inside and does, in fact, pass Troy Corser here.
Jamie James, at that point in time, was riding probably the best Superbike race of the year.
Yes, I agree with that, Larry. He wasn't taking no for an answer today. He was very, very determined. He was going to do it, I think, today.
Well, I think what we saw at Road Atlanta was a season full of adrenaline that had been stored up, had been bottled up inside Jamie James. He had not responded to the call to victory, you know, throughout the year like the Ducatis had, and I think James had that in the back of his mind. And when you say he was going to do it that day, no question in anyone's mind, but look what happened. All of a sudden, James began to slow. Colin Edwards looked over his shoulder. He realized something was wrong. He immediately went to the front of that pack, but it was no use. He could slow him all day long. Jamie James was out of it.
Yeah, that's right, Larry. What happened in the end, apparently, was that Jamie had a problem with the exhaust valve in the exhaust pipe. It's a part of the exhaust pipe that alters the power characteristic. It blocked the exhaust gases, and Jamie's day was effectively ruined.
Scott Russell took the win by a long, long way. If he'd looked behind him, he would have seen Pascal Piquet finishing second and Colin Edwards third. A pass on the last lap on the part of Troy Corser over Dave Sadowski actually gave Corser the title. That's what he needed. That's what he got. He got the job done. Russell, Piquet, Edwards, Corser, and Sadowski were the final results. Here are the final standings for the 1994 season. 1 point decided the championship.
It was a long season. It was looking really great at the start. We were really consistent. Ferracci, Ray, Phil, all the guys in the Ferracci Ducati team was excellent. The Ducati ran well all year, and I love it.
It was a great season of Superbike racing for Troy Corser, who was crowned the champion. Jamie James had no regrets.
You know, it's just the way it goes. My guys have worked real hard for me all year, and I want to thank the Yamaha people and all my mechanics. And, you know, I'm going to go back to Louisiana and have a party.
You do that, Jamie. 1994 is behind us. Next up, we'll look at 1995.
The latest bikes, the hottest wheels, the greatest finishes.
That's all I ever wanted.
It's time to ride your own race. Get on the fast track to success by calling Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. Endorsed by all 5 major manufacturers, the professionals at MMI will provide you the training to finish first.
1 year after graduation, and I'm working for the 2-time and current AMA National Championship GT Endurance Road Race team, Team Moto Liberty.
This is the call that can change your life. Take the first step to MMI.
It took over 2 years to design and perfect. It took only 1 race for the new Dunlop Sport Max 2 radial to prove its superiority and rocket past the checkered flag.
The confidence those tires give me is absolutely incredible. I tell you, the Dunlop Sport Max radials are fabulous.
Bred for the track, but ready for the street. Ask your Dunlop Performance dealer about the new Sport Max 2 radial. Dunlop tires, simply the best for your bike.
Here it is! Here it is! Here it is! The one you've been waiting for! On board with Doug Poland at the 93 Charlotte Superbike National. Catch the exciting action and experience the high banks and tricky chicanes at Charlotte. And even survive crashing through a hay bale at 80 miles an hour. Call 1-800-977-2323. That number again, 1-800-977-2323.
Cycle World is brought to you by Honda Motorcycles, the leader in on and off-road fun. Honda, come ride with us. By your local Yamaha dealer, who invites you to see their exciting line of motorcycles, ATVs, and snowmobiles. By Kawasaki. Kawasaki, let the good times roll. By Dunlop, simply the best for your bike. And by Cycle World, your leading motorcycle magazine. Welcome back to Cycle World. Jim, the ink was barely dry on the 1994 season when the rumors started to fly. Pascal Picat is going to Kawasaki. Mike Smith is going to Ducati. Miguel Duhamel is jumping ship. I want to tell you, the rumors were hot and heavy for a while. It was hard to keep track of them. Now, you've just returned from Daytona. Dunlop had rented the entire track for tire tests for all of the factory teams. So can you tell us who is wearing what color in 1995?
Well, Larry, the biggest surprise of the offseason was the switch of Miguel Duhamel from Harley-Davidson to the Smokin' Joe's Honda team. And Miguel is also going to be riding the 600 along with the Superbike. He had a great test down there. He was really adapted quickly to the 600, put down some virtually record times. The Superbike times were very competitive. He's happy with the team, happy with the motorcycles. They've got some work to do. Mike Hale is also going to be part of the Smokin' Joe's team next year. He rode 600 only last year. This year he's a Superbike guy and a 600 guy. Martin Adams there, the team owner, talking to Mike Hale and just telling him how it should be done, I guess. Mike Smith, your old team, saying goodbye to you. Here's your alligator buddy. I'm scared. Pascal Picat switches from Ducati this year to the Mazda Kawasaki team. Pascal will also ride 600 along with Superbike. Here he is on the Superbike. Pascal had a great test down there. He was down to minute 52 lap times. Steve Crevier, a holdover from the 1994 Muzzy Kawasaki team, will also ride 600 and Superbike for Rob Muzzy this year. Tom Kipp, another switch from Suzuki this time to Yamaha. Tom will ride 600 Supersport and the Superbike for the Vance & Hines Yamaha team, along with Jamie James, who, as we saw, had a great season this year for Vance & Hines Yamaha on the Superbike. James will not ride 600 in 1995, but obviously will return to the Superbike squad. Harley-Davidson looking for a rider to replace Miguel Duhamel, tested with David Sadowski, Doug Chandler, and Jim Felice. David did a great job down there. You've seen there talking to Steve Scheibe. Chris Carr confirmed on the team for 1995. Will switch from dirt to road race. He talked about some of his problems switching to road race.
Well, I think the biggest trouble I'm having is making sure I don't put my foot down through the left-handers right now. The right-handers, I usually go feet on the pegs, you know, when we run the TDs and stuff like that, so that hasn't been a problem. But the left-handers, I keep wanting to rely on a steel shoe, and I got to remember that, you know, I got to put my knee down instead.
Jim, now that I know who's riding what, I want your predictions. Put it on the line. Who's going to do the winning in 1995?
Larry, I've been accused of being a lot of things in this business. Stupid is one of them, but dumb is not one of the others. I have to work with every one of these guys every racing weekend. If I pick one guy right now, the other guys are all going to hate me. So what I'm going to say is, it's going to be a great season of racing in 1995, and some guy on a 750 Superbike is going to win it.
That's the same response I got from Jim Allen throughout 1994 every time I ask for a prediction. And with that, we're just about out of time. Hey, don't forget the AMA results line for the latest in motorcycle happenings. Give them a call at 1-900-884-CYCLE. Jim, I thank you for all of the help in 1994. We had a great time, saw some great races. I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to 1995.
I am too, Larry. I'm looking forward to it. It's been great this year, and I really want to say thanks for having me on the show. It's been a wonderful season for me as well.
Next week on Cycle World, last show of the season, be sure to tune in. We'll look back on the World Championship Superbike Series. Until then, for Jim Allen, I'm Myers. Hey, don't forget, keep your wheels on the ground and your feet on the pegs. So long, everyone.